Welcome to Adeptus On-Air, the show where we examine how individuals and companies make decisions that drive their business and personal success. Each week, we connect with notable professionals who pull back the curtain on the industries that Adeptus has been on the cutting edge of for the last 30 years, including music, sports, and entertainment, as well as new emerging markets.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of Adeptus On-Air. I am your host this week, Mike Hoffman, and I am joined today by Julie Laughton. Julie, how you doing today?
Very good.
Good. Appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. So Julie, for those of you who don't know, which I imagine that's some of you, Julie is one of coastal Orange County's top luxury custom home builders, and her company provides architecture, design, engineering, and general contracting as a unique one-stop shop for the design and building experience. I know when I look at your website and I see all those homes, I immediately get jealous wanting one of them. What got you into this? And, how did you get from being a design builder to just building at this high a level?
Well, the thing is, I like to do custom. So I'm kind of known for my quality and custom, and I'm not interested in tract homes or discount or beating the other guy's price. So that simple fact that I'm a designer and I have really good taste, that's what drives it, and then I just insist on doing quality.
What is the general timeline for one of these homes from like someone first contacting you to move in? Because when I look at these things and the depth of everything from the exterior to the interior, to the pools, to the designs, and they all look so different. What's the process?
Well, the process starts with the concept, and what is the home? When it's a remodel, you got to look at the existing home. What can it take? And then you take the client's ideas. What do they want? And you see if that matches. And then you come up with something that hopefully is on their budget, because that's the third item. But when remodels are harder because you have to deal with the existing conditions and fix stuff and reinvent, a lot more structural. So the process is the plans and the city permit process, and then we finally get to build it. So it's a long process in advance.
Yes, you'd be talking several years in some cases, I'd imagine.
Well, I like to say it's always a year, but the big ones are a year and a half, but we could know each other several years depending on the design process. But the construction's a year and a half, and then you could have a year in advance of that or a year and a half, depending on where you're at.
Now, do you team with, I guess, a lot of other professionals in different areas, from interior design to this, like, do you have a team around you, or is it everyone kind of brings in who they want to work with?
Okay, so here's the deal. I'm the architect, I'm the interior designer, the space planner, and all design. I do not work with architects. I have draftsmen. I do not work with interior designers because I do it. Now, I have a lot of designers that want to work with me, and maybe one day I will, but I don't need that help. So what I have is my structural engineer, my survey, my soils, my civil engineer, and all the engineers it takes to build the building, because that part I'm good at. So every architect works with 5 engineers to build a house, if not more. And I work with the same 5. So that's my team. And I am the architecture department. I am the interior design department. So I don't need, that is my talent.
That's incredible. Now, how many homes potentially are you working on at one time? Obviously, they're all at different parts of the process, but like right now, for example, how many are you in the process of working on?
There's 12 under construction, but some of them are really tiny. So what it really is 7 under construction and 7 on the drafting table. So that's 15 at a time, but now we have like 20. So, but they're all at different stages, and like they're all born at a different time. So we never have run out of workmen. And they're all at different stages on the drafting table. So it works.
What's your favorite style of architecture from a home standpoint? Because obviously I'm looking at your website, I'm seeing some, and by no means am I an expert in any way on this, but obviously they're very distinct, one to the next. Do you have
Well, I like traditional timeless. So for me, my favorite time period is 1930s Art Deco, but you don't see a lot of that, and that tends to be modern, but it's right after the industrial age when all the Victorian and all the craftsmen happened. So I'm kind of stuck on 1880 to 1930 1930 or 1940, and I don't really care for the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. But I do like ultra modern, but the real true modern, which is natural and organic. I don't like the pop mid-century modern so much, or plastic. And it's funny, I like traditional heavy stone,
Mhm.
heavy natural stone, the beautiful architecture from Europe. I like that.
Yeah, sure. No, yeah. And I guess when you're doing your interior design, I guess your approach is obviously based upon your client's preferences, but I guess it's based upon the general feel of the external structure of the house as well.
Yes. And so what happens is sometimes the outside of the house is perfect and we just have to remodel and gut the inside and then give it a fresh coat of paint or enhance it a little, or new windows. But sometimes the house is just a bland 60s, 70s, nothing, and we just totally transform it. And we just leave a few walls and it's totally different. So it's kind of a endless what we can do, but again, it relates to budget.
Now, when generally when you're talking to people who are new to the process, obviously, if someone's doing the house thing, maybe they've done it one time in their lives, maybe not to this level. Do you kind of break it down for them saying, all right, what's the total amount you want to spend? And then you kind of work with, okay, this is how I recommend allocating it between external, backyard, interior renovation versus the actual decorating.
Oh yeah, I always leave the decorating and the soft goods to the homeowner for later, because
Mhm.
a lot of my homeowners do it on their own, because the days of hiring a decorator and wasting that money is a huge.
Yeah.
So only certain people can do it. So what I do is I find out what they can spend, because I don't want them to have to waste money on things they don't need, but I also want to make sure they have enough money to go through the process, which is the plans. There's a certain cost for the darn plans in the city, and then there's a cost for the construction. So I'm very careful to tell them in advance what this might or might not cost, because the good news is, since I'm a contractor, I know, like, in the first few minutes what things are going to cost. After, what if with an hour in the house and seeing the house, I can tell them cost right off the bat, instead of having them invest 100 grand in plans and then they can't afford to build it.
Right.
That sucks, and that happens all the time. So I tell them the price up front and steer them away from things that are going to cause them a money pit. So yeah.
That's the one thing you hear about. And again, I'm in New Jersey, but I assume it's the same elsewhere, that people who either do home renovations or build, not necessarily through a builder, meaning not like in a new development, but like building with an independent developer, is there's always overages. So, they'll be given a cost of 700, and next thing you know, they're at 900 or a million. And I'm not even talking like a 2% overage. I'm talking like 10, 20, 30%.
10 to 20, 25 easy. And what happens is some builders don't really have good plans, or don't work with good architects or a good designer up front who details out the items on the plan before you start. So here's the secret. Seriously, if you have good plans and you pick all your stuff before your contractor starts, there cannot be any change orders or overages. Seriously. The secret is to get the plans, pick all your materials in advance, and purchase them the day that work starts. And then you won't have change orders on you anyway. And there might be a few unknowns, but there's not real knowns if you get your contractor involved early on the plans to check your engineering to make sure it works, and you
Mhm.
pick everything, and then you're done. That's really the secret to all this. Don't Some builders just say, oh, that's just plain old plans. You can pick your stuff later while we're moving along. And no, never do that.
Right, because I imagine, picking your stuff later on, there's level A, level B, level C, all the way probably through level M of quality and cost.
Right.
And I imagine for certain items, and depending on the volume of it, that could be thousands and thousands of dollars that you weren't necessarily anticipating, or you're settling for something you don't really want.
Well, that's just it. With nothing worse than have to settle for something because what you wanted is too expensive at the end of the day, or it's not available. That's why
Yeah.
it's so dumb to pick things afterwards. Because what if it's not available? That's the bad thing. And the prices do vary. So I also tell people the price range they're going to be in, because we stay at a certain quality of material, and we don't do the discount,
Mhm.
closeout stuff and the cheap stuff from China. We don't buy that stuff. We just stick to
Right.
what we could get locally.
How has this entire process and or the market changed the last few years, particularly when, COVID kind of came in?
Well, between COVID and TV shows, people want things, the customers are more savvy. then they want to be more involved. Or, well, let's say they're more knowledgeable. So
Mhm.
what it is I think the client's more knowledgeable and maybe they demand more answers and maybe they're helping the process by just kind of knowing, hey, maybe I should have a really good designer before I cut my contractor loose. Never let your contractor be your designer because people do that all the time. And that's
Right.
really bad. So I think the changes are everybody's at home over COVID, everybody's paying attention,
Mhm.
everybody's remodeling. They're all like doing something to improve
Yeah.
their home. So they're all kind of in it. And then the TV's been going on for 10 years, kind of showing them stuff. So it's kind of interesting. But every human, I think, remodeled their home during COVID, did something,
There was something, whether it was one room or, finishing the
just a paint
basement.
color. Yeah. Fixed a
Yeah.
sink. I mean, just they finally had time to pay attention to their home because my other beef about this business is nobody does their maintenance. So because they're
Mhm.
busy, right? And then then they get home and they think, oh my God, I need to caulk this. Oh my God, I
Yeah.
need to paint,
Right.
so they
Mhm.
finally get around to maybe doing their maintenance, which brings up their attention on what really needs to be done.
Right. Right. Yeah. Now, I imagine, how long have you been in the field?
35 years, since I was 21.
Wow. I won't do the math where that puts you now.
I'm
But
61, so I don't know if I did the math right. I think it's longer. I'm 61. That's 40 years.
I was going to say, I am an accountant, so math is my thing, and I didn't get to 61. That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. At this point, since you've been doing it for such a long time, are you now seeing people who you did a house for maybe 25, 30 years ago coming back now for something new?
Oh yeah, I get that all the time. So what happens is they think, "Oh my God, my kids have moved on. Oh my God, we're thinking of
Mhm.
adding on because we have grandkids." That's a big one, the grandkids, and it prompts them. And then I have clients so long that the spouse has now died and the spouse has passed on, or they're getting ready to give the house to their kids. So, or maybe their kids just got it. So
Mhm.
I have clients that go way back, and some of my clients are in their 80s. So yeah. Mhm.
That's amazing. Now, are most houses in California? I mean, obviously you work in the one area, and I'm looking at all these backyards. I imagine, is it a big focal point of houses? And obviously there's exceptions to like a backyard with pools and things like that. Is that a pretty popular occurrence in California?
It's really popular in California. If they don't have one, they want one, but most neighborhoods have them, except for some of the older neighborhoods. And then we try to put one in, or at least we try to put in a putting green. That's kind of a big thing too lately,
Oh,
is a
really?
putting green. But just something to entertain because COVID drove the idea of I need to stay home and enjoy my oasis because I can't go anywhere. So what
Yeah,
can I do in my backyard? Yeah.
yeah. I mean, we have a lot of people here that have pools, but again, it's open 4 months of the year, maybe
Yeah, that's
maybe
just
four and
it.
a half.
So then you got to do something else that you can use all year round, or like a sunroom. So the East Coast, I like the idea of the sunroom and the glass rooms. I
Mhm.
mean, some people have glassed in pools, but that's a whole nother deal.
Yeah, it's funny. So my daughter a few years ago was invited to a friend's house, and she's someone she'd never been to before. And they said, "All right, bring a bathing suit. We're going to go swimming." And the girls that she invited, it was like her dance team, said, "You know, how are we going swimming? It's like I don't care if your pool's heated. It's like it's the middle of February." And she's like, "No, our outdoor pool's closed. Our indoor pool's still open."
See, and I've seen a lot of big houses on the East Coast with the
Yeah.
indoor pools because if you're gonna have it, you can't even use it if you don't have that. So just build that little glass room on. Big deal. Mhm.
Yeah, which obviously I don't know too many people that have that, but she was like, "Whoa, you know,
That's fun. Yeah,
we
that's
want
a
one of
big deal.
those." Yeah, yeah. But here, what you see a lot of people here who go to the pools, buy a second home, somewhere closer to the beach, and they don't need the pool in the summer if they're spending their summers kind of at the shore.
Well, that's just it, because the thing out there is to go to the Hamptons or the shore
Yeah.
in the summer. It's kind of a no-brainer, or the Jersey Shore. And
Mhm.
and when I lived in New York City, everybody went to the beach, no matter
Yep.
what. So
Yep.
that was a thing.
Now, what's the harder thing there to find prime real estate? Like, what appreciates the most? Is it the real estate or is it the actual homes?
It's the real estate because it's
Yeah.
location, 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 and there's nothing available. It's really tight because there's a inventory shortage, but the land it's sitting on and the ocean view is the ticket. That's the
Yeah.
money because there's homes that were built in 1930 that on the coast that are their lots are going for 15 million to a 30 million in Laguna. And whoever thought? And one lady I know just bought her house for 15 million and she's tearing it down and building a
Well,
new one because it's the
well,
land.
that
And the
was my
house has
next
been there
question to
since
you.
the 30s. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
insane. She kind of joked about it, but I said, "Don't worry, I got another one I'm working on that's 30 million."
yeah. Well, that was my next question. Are you seeing a lot of times where if the structure's 100 years old, needs so much work, is it more, and you get the land that you want, do you just demo it and start from scratch?
And when it's that high value of a lot, you definitely build a new one
Yeah.
and start over because the old ones, unless you're into the quaint, charming, and let's say if it's a tiny little lot, I have one of those clients too. It's a $7 million lot, and it's a little tiny 1,500 square foot house. So you can't really build a new one because it's a tiny lot, but it's also on the bluff. So then you just leave it and fix it. But the other ones are larger lots, so you can.
Mhm.
So the homes are built really tiny on big lots. So those you want to maximize.
So what in these new homes that you're building now, what's been like the latest trend over the past 5, 10 years that you didn't see, maybe like I said, 10 years ago?
Well, everything is always open living. Oh, take out the walls where the kitchen, the family room is, and then always put in a glass wall or all the doors to the patio. So you really want to capture the outside to the inside. So you double the value of your space and the size of your space. So out here, it's outdoor, indoor, outdoor living, and just a cold wall that removes. So you make your house bigger by using the outside where you can. So no tiny little windows, just huge sliders everywhere. That's the
Mhm.
big thing, huge windows and sliders.
And in the backyards, besides pools, and you mentioned putting greens, I know on the East Coast here, pickleball's kind of taken over, everyone here. Are you
Yes.
seeing people out there building either tennis courts?
I had one client where I designed a pickleball court subterranean under his house, and he also had a 42-foot swimming pool, but he was an exceptional guy with a little extra money, so that didn't count. But he wanted the pickleball court for his kids because of the rage. But I have no other clients putting them in because they all like to go to the tennis courts
Yeah.
and the local place and gather where it's already existing because it's like a place to go. So I
Hmm.
haven't had a request from the average person to put one in because they're enjoying going to their club
Yeah.
or their place where they meet or their city park, to do it. So, but it is the rage and everyone is doing it, but no pickleball courts other than that multimillionaire guy.
Yeah. And that's an underground one, even better.
Yes.
So what's the outlook there in terms of real estate out in California? Like, over the next 5, 10 years, they still
Well,
expect the.
we have a different reality than the Midwest. So even though
Hmm.
the recession is still going down, the feds are still trying to control spending. The real estate in our market, because it's 5 million and above
Hmm.
homes, is going up and always growing, and there's no recession. So the sales are good. And it's the ones between 1 million and 5 million that's issues. But the higher market on the coast here is good, but there's a housing shortage and they fight over the houses. So, it's still going down, but maybe at the end of this year it'll reverse itself a little bit. But they're selling and they're paying. So it's a different market.
Yeah, we're seeing that here too. I think especially when COVID hit, the the beach homes, down the shore, I think became even more of a commodity because it was a great way to do things. It was a great way to be safe, but to be outside, kind of thing and so forth.
Well,
And
and we have LA, all these LA people moving to Newport and Laguna and Palm
mm,
Desert. So
yeah,
everybody's leaving the cities and going to their beach homes or their second home. That happened huge during COVID.
yeah.
They're
And
just
are,
gone to
are
new
they coming
places.
back? Or are they staying? Is their
That,
beach homes
to what
slowly
I'm hearing,
becoming
they're
their
not
primary?
coming back. They're not
Yeah,
coming back.
yeah. Because now with remote work and things like that, that second home could easily become
Remote
their
work,
primary.
the remote
Yep,
work, the increase in homelessness, the horrible problems with crime.
yep.
It's a whole combination. Mark Wahlberg moved to Vegas. Other celebrities, huge properties, gorgeous, are just moving to other locations.
Yeah. So I imagine when those big houses go up, I imagine they get sucked up pretty quickly.
They do. There's a
Yeah.
fight for them, all of them, and it kills me because, like I said, I'm working on one now that they're thinking of selling for 30 million, but it's been in the family since 1930. So it's who knew?
Now, do you have, I guess, close relationships with some real estate agents so you can kind of hopefully get in, kind of right at the beginning when someone purchases?
Yeah, so what it is that real estate agents out here are like ants. So like they are out, there's millions of them, but I do have some that I relate to with my same values and my same level of who I am. And so that's how I kind of bond with people. So yes, I have probably five that I work with closely, and they can count on me and I can count on them for a good referral because we're good fits as humans, I hate to say
Yeah.
it, we all have the same work ethic and integrity. So yes, and I get that call. Oh my God, that's my favorite call is when, I just bought the house. They told me we need to work with you.
Yeah. So you're already in. You haven't said a word to them and you're already in because you know what? If the realtor did right by them, they have no reason not to trust the realtor's referral.
They don't, and they really trust them a lot. So it's
Yeah.
important who the realtor refers to because boy, they get it when it doesn't work.
Yeah, let's think about it. That realtor potentially found them their dream home, their dream location. So they're very appreciative of them. They obviously did something for them that they, obviously was important to them. So why not trust that person that already, did right by you?
Yes.
So from a business perspective, because obviously, we're as you know, an accounting firm who kind of does this podcast, you know, what is your approach in terms of there's the business side of this? Meaning, when you look at a job, obviously, you probably look at it, I would think, in two ways. One, I assume you have to be excited by the work you're doing because maybe it's a new challenge, maybe it's a neighborhood you've never been in, maybe it's a style that you really love. But then you also have to look at it because it's obviously a profession for you, and you have to look at the money that you can make on it. What's your approach when you're looking at a job in terms of whether or not you're going to move forward with a client?
Well, first of all, I gotta like the client's gotta like me, and I gotta like the client. And then I always get excited helping people, so I'm always so excited on every job what I can do for them because I can see it right away what we can do and how we can transform it. So, and then I also see how much it's going to cost. So once we get past the hump of can we afford this or can you really afford this? And then I show them the cost because I need to show them what I'm doing and what I mark up because they want to make sure I'm not ripping them off. So I
Sure.
show them my markup, my percentage, so they understand it. Then I show them my burdens, my contingencies, my permit, all that overhead that I
Mhm.
just do for that. Each job has a certain percentage of overhead. I show them that what
Sure.
it takes me to run this job. And I'm not asking them to pay for all of my overhead. They just pay a percentage. So I show them that number. And once they see that, oh, I get it, because I have a huge team under me, then and then I show them, that it's not cheap, but I'm probably less money than the other guy to run it. And my profit really is maybe 10%, but at the end of the day, it could be 2 or 3 or 4 because they might need more attention. And I'm not going to ding them on, me talking to them 4 times a week instead of 2 times a week. So
Right.
I show them that I'm hoping to walk away with 10%, but I never do because I'm not going to charge you more just because it took more time because
Hmm.
it is me. But that's where I'm at. I show them what the stuff costs and how much I mark it up. So I'm transparent. And then I'd show them, I'm hoping to make 10. And
Right.
then that's how we do it because I can't pay somebody unless I know the number and I want to see how they got that number. So I'm transparent, which helps calm them down and understand what they're getting, because we have a huge team.
Because there's a lot of behind the scenes things that they might not
Oh,
realize exist, or they
there's
do exist and they're aware it exists, but they might not know to what extent. The permit
and they
process. They
don't know
probably,
what
yeah.
extent. And the ones that don't want to pay for the amount of people and the energy it takes to do this production,
Hmm.
I don't work with them because those are the ones that think they can do it cheaper on their own. But it's like 100 hours to draw plans. It's
Yeah.
20 hours for every faucet we order because you got to order it, ship it, deliver
Hmm.
it, find it, put it in the job site, track it. I mean, there's hundreds of hours just to run the job.
And I imagine you have some people who are like, I saw this faucet, here's a picture of it. I saw it in a movie. I saw it in a magazine. Find it.
I get that all the time. I actually
Yeah.
had an actor have me find tile for him he saw on one of his favorite TV shows. It took me a month to find that tile,
Yeah.
and I seriously couldn't find it. And I can find anything, and I finally found it. But that was funny, and I love that challenge because in the old days there wasn't as much available. So I made the tile, or I made the hardware, or I made the brass fitting. I had the people to make stuff for me. So that's my favorite thing to do, because in the old days, I just customized it and had a local craftsman do it. But that's 30 years ago.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to someone? Now, again, some of the people that are going to be listening to this aren't obviously going to be the market for 10, 15, $20 million homes, so maybe to a smaller scale, but the concepts are primarily the same. What are the biggest pitfalls for someone who's, let's just say starting from scratch and kind of building a home on their own? When I say on their own with people, like what would be your best advice to someone?
My best advice is never do owner builder or take on that liability yourself. Find a good person to draw plans. It doesn't have to be a high price architect. It could be a draftsman or someone that it isn't a licensed architect. It doesn't matter. As long as they know what they're doing. Okay, that's one thing. They got to know how to design, because architecture is the building. Okay, they're not good at space plan and kitchens. So architects aren't good at your remodel. You need someone that knows how to do the design, the space plan, and pick all the materials. So that's like a combo platter, like me, architect, interior designer, space planner. So again, you could use a draftsman if you have the right team. So the other thing is, always work with a licensed contractor who's going to pull a permit. Don't ever follow that nonsense of, oh, I'll do your design and we can save money by not getting this inspected. So that's probably the two biggest things, is make sure you have plans that work for you. And that doesn't necessarily mean a fancy architect. It just needs someone that knows how to do remodels. But if you're building a new home, then you start with the architect, and then, it's different. But most people are remodeling, and my clients, believe it or not, are the average Joe. I have school teachers as clients. I have just regular people, and we want to do it as conservative but effective. So we don't want to pay too much for the plans, but we want the plans to have all the information and do it legally, and involve your contractor up front for all those questions that your designer doesn't know, because that crossover is never done enough. So your contractor should be hanging out answering questions while you're just trying to decide stuff, so we can tell you, oh, that's going to cost too much, or oh, that's going to take another 6 months. So that's my thing, is involve your team immediately. Day one, get your team day one, other
Yeah.
professionals, good professionals with experience in what you're doing.
And it's probably important in your field to be flexible, because I got to imagine you probably draw up these plans. You might even start the process, and then someone just calls you out of the clear blue and totally pivots. I decided I want my kitchen to be 500 square foot bigger, because suddenly I want, 4 ovens instead of 2. And I guess you have to have that flexibility.
That happens, and then we got to shift gears, and all of a sudden it's cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. But
Yeah.
it happens probably 30% of the time. Okay, 20 to 30% of the time, and out of the blue, because they've talked to their girlfriend, or they saw something on TV, or on vacation, or finally they're starting to freaking pay attention. Because sometimes we start the job and they're not really paying attention, and all of a sudden, oh my God, I finally got it. And okay, thank you. But what happens is they pay attention a little late, and then we got to do it. But yeah, it happens.
I would think also, you mentioned it before, I would think the HD shows, the home design shows and all that are probably a good thing and a bad thing. Because I imagine people I was going to say,
they're a good thing, because they show lots of ideas. So that's
right.
a good thing, because it's like a quick, like your Pinterest. But the bad thing is none of them, I mean none of them are realistic on the time or the cost. They're never done that cheap, and they're never done that quick. That's what bugs me.
Well, they're done in a half hour, with commercial breaks.
They're done in 30 minutes. That's right.
I mean, come on, you can't do a house in 30 minutes or less?
That's it. They're done in 30 minutes. Yep.
That's pretty funny. Well, listen, Julie, how can people take a look at your stuff? Because like I said, I'm on the next screen right here, and I just keep watching all these beautiful things you have there with the coastline. So how can people find you online?
It's easy, but my name is Julie Laughton, Julielaughton, and you can go find my website at julielaughton.com, or you can find my podcast at julielaughtonliving.com, and then you can also look up my I have another thing coming, which you'll see on the podcast, like a little classes I offer to explain how to do it right, so you don't make a mistake. Because even my parents in Iowa, when they did their remodel, they called me almost every day because the contractor had these questions and then things were going wrong. And I'm like, this is what you need to do to get ahead of this guy. And this is what you should have done. And this is what you don't do. So every person, even if you're just replacing your windows, there's like a million questions. So it's endless. But if you follow these simple steps and rules that I have, because since I'm a one-stop shop, I know the rules to follow. And I keep everybody out of trouble. That's how I keep my clients out of trouble, because, you know, I guide them through this process. I don't just let them fall in the holes and fall in the, the potholes out there. I drive around the potholes and I keep them out of trouble, because I think I'm one of the only people that manages it from conception to completion. So my big job is saving clients from a nightmare. So I'll have some more information on that soon too.
Sounds good. Well, Julie, I really appreciate you taking the time here. It was very interesting. I've always kind of find this stuff really cool. So it was a lot of fun talking to you, and I wish you nothing but continued success.
Thanks a million. I really enjoyed my conversation, and I'll see you soon. Hopefully, let's stay in touch.
Sounds great to me. Be well.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to Adeptus On-Air. If you like this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. If you have a question related to this episode or have a request for what you would like to hear, please email us at marketing@adeptuscpas.com. You can also find us at adeptuscpas.com online or follow us at Adeptus on social media. The views and opinions by the podcast speakers and guests are solely their own and do not reflect the opinions of Adeptus. This podcast provides general information only and is not intended to constitute advice.